welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast. Quick question for you all. Can you recall that moment a few years ago when you didn't have any subscriptions in your life? You cut the cord from your satellite or cable provider and patted yourself on the back because you saved yourself a fortune. Fast forward a few years, you probably now look down your bank statement and see things like Disney, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, HBO, Xbox, PlayStation, and a long list of other subscriptions. Welcome to the subscription economy. Well, I'm going to try and help you today because today's guest had that exact same problem and he decided to do something about it. And his name is Yahya, and he is the Chief Revenue Officer and co-founder of a company called Rocket Money, which is essentially a personal finance app with over 3.4 million members that is empowering consumers to retake control of their financial lives. So with Rocket Money, essentially users can cancel any unwanted subscriptions, create personalised budgets, and even enlist Rocket Money to negotiate bills on their behalf. And anyone that has had problems with certain services expiring at different times of the year and you have to go through that painful renewal process and trying to get a better price, that sounds incredibly intriguing to me for sure. And many of you listening may have already seen today's guest on Rocket Money's television commercials where he's discussed his journey. But today I've invited him on to discuss his journey developing Rocket Money, the app's money management features, tips on how consumers can live their best financial lives, and more importantly of all, the startup story behind the company and the technology that makes all this possible. So buckle up and hold on tight because today I'm going to beam your ears all the way to Miami where Yahya is waiting to share his story. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Yahya. I am the founder of a company called Rocket Money, previously known as Truebill. We like to say Truebill was the leading personal finance app that helps people identify and track unwanted subscriptions, lower bills, and ultimately just get a really complete, holistic picture and understanding of their financial life.
Oh, there's so much we could talk about just on that line you mentioned a moment ago there about cutting down on unwanted subscriptions. At a time of, economic uncertainty, anyone that looks down those bank statements, a few years ago it was we're cutting the cord, we're leaving cable behind and just having Netflix and they save ourselves so money. But you look at that list now, suddenly there's so many subscriptions in there, isn't there?
There really is. And that's one of the things that drove us to start the company was this was about 7 years ago, and the buzz was all about the subscription economy and the growth of the subscription economy. And, it seemed at the time that everything was just moving to a recurring model. Like I even was getting toothbrushes and toothpaste as a monthly subscription at the time. And it was just getting impossible to keep track of. And so, I looked around at the different tools online thinking there has to just be an easy, convenient way to keep on top of this. And I was pretty surprised to see there wasn't. And I was fortunate that, I started the company with my brothers, and so I was chatting with them, and I think everyone has the pain point or the experience of like having a subscription they forgot about that they paid for way too long, and so we said, let's just solve this problem.
And that's what I love about recording this podcast every day. I've done 2,300 interviews now, and the amount of people like yourself that I've spoken with, that they come across a pain point, a problem that people like me will complain about and moan about it in a bar somewhere, but not do anything about it. So your origin story there, you came across that problem, wanted to do something about it. Where did you go from there? How did you go from that idea to let's build an app or a company around solving that problem?
So for me specifically, it was in-flight Wi-Fi that I was paying for. My brother, it was his home security system on his house that he'd moved out of a year before. And Plaid had recently launched. Plaid is a software company that develops software that lets you connect to a bank account with a username and password and download the charges. So my little brother had been looking at that just by chance, and he's like, you know what? There's this company called Plaid. We could, in theory, connect people's bank accounts and credit cards, scan their transactions, and determine, using a pretty straightforward algorithm, or what we thought would be straightforward at the time, what the recurring charges are. So he spent a few days putting together just a really, really primitive algorithm that would connect to your credit card or your bank account, look at your transactions and identify patterns. And those patterns would likely be subscriptions. And, at the time, I don't know that we thought there was a big company to be built there. It was more so just, a cool product to hack on. But we sent it out to friends and family, and two things happened. One, it seemed like everyone we sent it to was finding something they either didn't know about or had forgotten about, or just didn't want anymore. And the other thing was, as we started getting more users, I think after a month, we were getting about 15 to 30 signups per day, which is, a fraction of a percentage of what we get now. But it was enough to start getting to aggregating data and starting to draw insights from. And I think collectively, we were really surprised at just how much financial inefficiency there was in people's personal money management. And so, I think that's when the light bulb went off and we said, you know what, there's something here. There's a bigger problem to solve beyond subscriptions. Let's really try to tackle financial inefficiency.
And fast forward to 2023, Rocket Money is a personal finance app with more than 3.4 million members, and you're empowering consumers to take back control of their financial lives at a time when it is more important than ever to do just that. So can you walk me through how you do it for anyone that's never heard of you guys before?
Yeah, absolutely. One other fun stat there. So it's over 3 million users, but we've saved people over $150 million.
Wow.
And that's the stat that I think I'm proudest of.
I mean, if you go back to that moment where you had that idea and you wanted to solve a problem, and you combine that moment with the over 100 million you've saved people, it's got to feel pretty good, hasn't it?
It does. So the way it works is it's pretty cool. You sign up, you connect your credit cards and your bank accounts. That takes 10 seconds. You just put in your username and password, and Rocket Money automatically connects your accounts. And from there, it does a few things. Firstly, it scans and gives you an instant readout of all your subscriptions and recurring charges. If there's any you don't like, you can skip the headache. You don't have to call and wait on hold for 20 minutes to cancel. You just click right in the app, the cancel this for me button, and the app will get rid of it for you with no headache. And that's pretty great. From there, it'll also look through your bills and identify ways to save. So we have a whole team of concierges that will negotiate your things like your cell phone bill, your home security bill, your cable bill, your satellite radio bill. There's a long list. And more often than not, we're able to actually get people pretty significant discounts on those. And then from there, the app has what I think is just the best holistic view of your money. And so, you're able to see, and not just see, but really understand where your money is going, what's coming in, what's going out, and, where you can be more efficient. And then there's a whole suite of ancillary tools as well. You can track and monitor your credit score. You can help save money for a rainy day or for a new home purchase or really anything else. It's a long list.
And I do suspect there'll be people listening that find themselves a little bit short at the end of each month. And equally, they have a lot of subscriptions that were a great idea that maybe they've just kind of outgrown and they just don't use anymore. So to bring to life what we're talking about here, let's say I wanted to cancel some unwanted subscriptions or create a personalised budget. I'm looking down my bank statement. I see the usual suspects: HBO, Showtime, Adobe, Disney, Dollar Shave Club, Amazon Prime, Xbox Live, PSN Network, etc. Can you tell me how I would do that? And also, what makes it different from, let's say, just cancelling a direct debit on a bank account?
Sure. So, canceling it the bank doesn't really have a way to cancel a subscription for you.
Yeah.
The way the bank would do it is not what you're supposed to do. You'd have to you'd have to block the charge.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's a couple problems with that. One, depending on who it is, for instance, if it's like your cable bill or something, that would actually go to collections and that could ding your credit. So you don't want to do that there. But two, when you block the charge, the vendor or the subscription company, they don't know that you want to cancel, and they don't know why the charge is being blocked. They might think it's just that you don't have enough money, so they'll give you a few days grace period before trying to charge again. But the other thing is, a lot of these companies will actually try again from different transaction names. So just as an example, let's say I'm just going to use Netflix here. Not that they're guilty of this, but it's just a service everyone knows. So let's say Netflix shows up on your card statement as NFLX, right?
Yeah.
And so they try billing, and it doesn't go through because it's been blocked. Well, there's a good chance that they'll then try to rerun the transaction as Netflix, or NFLX California or anything else, right? And again, Netflix is not guilty of this. I'm just using that as an example of what a subscription company might do, right? So even blocking it from your bank is not bulletproof. The only bulletproof way is to really actually get in touch with that company either through the website or the subscription flow, or, if it's newspapers typically require you to actually get on the phone with them and to cancel it like as they want it to be canceled. You click on the subscription, it shows you how much you're paying monthly, how long you've been paying for it, how much you paid in total. And then if you want to keep it, that's great. But if you want to cancel it, you would there's a button there that says cancel this for me. You would click that. It would ask you for a few pieces of information. For instance, if it's a streaming account, it would ask you for the email associated with the account. If it's a newspaper delivery, it would ask you for the address that the newspaper is being delivered to. So you provide that, and then our team would, in most cases, actually automatically cancel it for you through technology we've built.
Well, one of the things that stood out to me was I also read that you can use it to negotiate bills on your behalf. And the reason that stands out for me is because every year it seems like I have to do a bit of a merry dance with each provider. That could be home insurance, car insurance, Adobe Creative subscription, home heating cover, cable TV, mobile phone contract, pet insurance, all those things. As they run out, they then try and charge you much, much more. And you have to get on the phone and, go through that long-winded argument of trying to get that a new contract and a better price. So can you tell me a little bit more about how that works? Because that seems like a big win because it takes up so much time.
It does. It's a total win-win for everyone, I guess, except for the cable or cell phone company. But you're absolutely right. And even if they don't raise pricing on you, so for instance, think about your cell phone bill, what you were paying, what your plan looked like 10 years ago. You're probably paying, $100 a month for or £80 a month. And you were getting like 500 minutes and you're paying for text messages and you got like 100 megs of data or something, right?
Yeah. Obviously,
that plan, the pricing on that plan has come down quite a bit. So today you probably have unlimited data or several gigs of data, unlimited minutes, and you're probably paying less than that. So these companies roll out better plans, but what they don't do is automatically upgrade everyone to the better plan. They just sort of leave you on the old one until you complain.
Yeah.
So that's one thing we do is very quickly detect if you're just on an old plan and there's just a better plan for less money that in most cases has more data, more minutes, just more features for you. And then the other thing is a lot of these companies have things like retention discounts or loyalty discounts or any other slew of promotions that they're able to give out, but that they don't proactively give out. You have to sort of know what to ask for and then really push for it. Which if you've got the time and inclination, that's great. But I think for a lot of people, it's just an unpleasant task to get on the phone with a company like Comcast and argue with them over your bill. So we just don't do it. So to solve that, we've built a huge team here that really takes time to look and understand your bills, understand the promotions and discounts that are available, and then fight on your behalf to get those.
And I've got to ask, what countries do you serve at the moment? Because this sounds incredibly appealing to me in the UK, and I know we've got a lot of people listening in 165 countries. The US is by far our biggest audience. I know you serve that audience, but is there anywhere else in the world that you serve at the moment?
It is US only at the moment.
At the moment. Oh, man. I will have to come back a little bit later when you expand on that. But as this is a tech podcast, can you tell me a little bit more about the tech that makes it all possible?
Yeah, absolutely. So we use Plaid as our bank connection partner.
Yeah.
And then from there, we've built a really extensive subscription recognition algorithm that incorporates machine learning as well. There's a whole big team of people that are working on that. The thing about tracking subscriptions is it's pretty easy to get it 90% right. It's very difficult to get it 100% right. And there's all sorts of examples I can give you for complications. For instance, you could have a company that, like Dollar Shave Club, for instance, that is a subscription, but they also sell products on a one-off basis. So you need an algorithm that's sophisticated enough to recognize if it's a subscription or a single purchase, right? That's just one example. So we've invested really heavily in that piece of it, just getting that to be accurate. We've also built quite a bit of cancellation automation. So if you, for instance, want to cancel Spotify, it's not like we have someone who sits on the phone and calls up Spotify and cancels. That's an automated process. And we've built out hundreds, if not thousands, of these different pathways where we're able to cancel subscriptions on behalf of people in an automated way. For the financial overview and financial tools, again, that's something that it's pretty easy to get right 90% of the time, but it's very difficult to be right 100% of the time. And the thing is with things like subscriptions or just financial tracking and management, it's actually more harmful than helpful to only be 90% accurate. For instance, if you're telling someone about their money and you're 95% right, that means you're 5% wrong, and they could make the wrong decisions because of that inaccuracy.
Yeah.
Right. So it's something where getting almost there is easy, but getting it all the way there is years and years of really, really painstaking work.
And I'm curious, we will have startup founders listening at various stages of their career. So I'm curious, has the focus changed at all since the acquisition? Have you noticed any changes there? Because I think it'd be so useful for other startup founders listening.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the thing about building a startup is what you actually end up working on is the intersection of what would be useful for people and what do you have the resources to tackle, right?
Yeah.
And so for us, for the first several years of our app, everything we did was read-only, essentially, right? Where we could give you information about your finances, but we couldn't really touch the money because it just takes an order of magnitude more resources to build those types of core financial products, right? But if you look at how you can actually help people make an impact on their finances, that's where there's the most leverage. So for instance, we can say, all right, credit cards can be predatory and take advantage of people. And that's where a lot of people are losing money on interest and just fees and other things, right? But like launching a credit card is not easy. It takes a ton of work, and it's sort of outside the reach of most startups. So one of the coolest things about joining Rocket companies is it removed that second impediment, meaning we were able to say, what can we build and how can we be impactful, period, not given a resource constraint. And so the types of products we're working on now and launching now are just a lot more ambitious. So for instance, we are rolling out the Rocket Signature credit card, which I think is just, not only is it a fantastic credit card in terms of like the rewards and what it does for people, but it's also really fundamentally ideated to be a credit card designed to keep people out of debt and not a credit card designed to get people into debt, which I think is like one of the fundamental revolutions that needs to happen in credit. And then beyond that, if you look at the other sort of big life moments that touch people's finances, it's things like purchasing a home or taking out a loan for a big project or something. And Rocket has those in its portfolio. So we're able to really, be more ambitious in the types of ways we're looking to innovate and across the size of products that we're touching.
And if we look across the digital landscape right now, it is evolving at breakneck speed. So I've got to ask, what kind of tech trends are exciting you at the moment? Because there's so much going on, and I would imagine that you're following things closely and looking at how you'll be able to leverage them in the future. But is there anything that excites you at the moment?
Yeah, I'm sure everyone you ask for the next 6 months is probably going to say AI. Right?
Yes, yeah.
And the implications of like what you can do with that across really every facet of your life, but finance equally so is really exciting. I saw an article today about a company that's using ChatGPT-4 to create lawsuits against robocallers. So in the US, it's illegal for companies to robocall you. And so this company will, when you get a call, they will, the ChatGPT will spit out essentially a lawsuit against the robocaller, right? So that's super interesting. For us, we could certainly apply that to, there's some big interesting things we could do there with bill negotiation, but also I think just using AI to identify financial trends, right? There's certain markers that indicate if someone's on the right track towards financial health or not on the right track. And there's obvious ones you could build into like a rules-based system, like, hey, you're spending more than you're making, right? But that's not always in people's control, and it can go a lot deeper than that. So really using AI to understand like what are the biomarkers for financial health, and then like what types of messages or tools or treatments can you give to intervene to get someone progressing forward towards their financial goals, whether that's just getting out of debt or whether it's something larger like purchasing their first home or something.
Yeah, 100% with you. It's funny with the AI trend at the moment. If you go back 4 or 5 months ago, there was a let's say a lukewarm response to all things AI, but that has changed very quickly over the last few months. So are you going to be continuing to looking at exploring how you can leverage these technologies and embrace new emerging technologies too? Is that something you're always actively searching for or observing?
It definitely is. Startups are in our DNA, and kind of, for better or worse, we're sort of always excited about hacking on the new latest technology.
Love that. And of course there is, there's a real pressure on each and every one of us now to be in this almost state of continuous learning, being open, being adaptable to move with the changes. So I've got to ask, where or how do you self-educate? Is there any particular tips or anything you can share on how you stay ahead of the curve?
For one thing, they say, you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
I am addicted to reading biographies, and especially autobiographies.
Yeah.
I think when you read an autobiography, you're kind of hanging out with that person for, the week that it takes you to read it. But more than that, you're hanging out with the best version of that person. So I think that's not necessarily self-education as to the latest trends, but I think that's just a great tool for self-education on a macro level in terms of like evolving towards the person you want to be. With the latest trends, I read a lot of Hacker News. That's sort of the Y Combinator forum.
Yeah.
I read TechCrunch, and then I'm fortunate that I've got this company with over 100 super talented engineers that are always buzzing about what they discovered over the weekend.
Yeah, you can't beat that. Being surrounded by people like that are generally passionate and just thirsty to absorb so much information there. It's something that's great, especially now, but we're going back into the office, etc., and people are really talking about these things in close proximity to each other. But I've got to ask them, for anybody listening that just wants to find out more about Rocket Money, how they can get involved, maybe contact your team or sign up and give it a try. What's the best starting point for everything?
Yeah, so you can start with our website. That's rocketmoney.com. We also have a full learning center, so that's rocketmoney.com/learn. And then for reaching out with the team, the team's pretty active on Twitter and across social media. I think people generally just want to help, and that's not unique to Rocket. I think it's very much so the case with Rocket. But I've always found in my career, like, I've emailed a number of CEOs just a number of random questions or thoughts, and more often than not, I actually get responses. So I encourage people to do that.
Awesome. Well, I'll add the links to the show notes so people can find you nice and easily. So much I love chatting with you today about, and I think in particular, it's that origin story there of coming across a problem, a pain point, a friction point, thinking we can do something about this. And then fast forward to present day and look at what you've achieved with, yes, 3.4 million members, but saving people hundreds of millions of dollars. It's just absolutely phenomenal. So I would urge anyone listening, maybe a startup founder thinking of launching something, thinking of solving a problem, just do it, and hopefully we can be speaking to them in a few years too. But more than anything, a big thank you for coming on, sharing that story. Hopefully you've inspired others, and I'd love to get you back on later in the year or next year or whenever you're expanding beyond the US too. So thanks for sharing that with me today.
Yeah, I really appreciate the conversation.
Again, what an amazing story there. And I just love that fact of him and his brother had this problem, that pain point that we all moan about and complain if we're in a bar or talking with friends and family, etc. That long list of subscriptions, and where do you tackle them? And especially when some of those subscriptions you just don't use. If you've not opened up the app or used the service in 6 months, why are you paying, $20, $30, $40 a month for it, But let me know, what subscriptions have you got? How many have you got? And would you consider culling any of them? And if you are, would you use Rocket Money to do that? I'd love to hear your stories here on the subscription economy, the amount you've got, the need to cut down, whether you use them, whether they value for money. There's a whole podcast episode waiting right there, isn't there? So email me now, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram @NeilC.Hughes, and please leave a rating or review if you've enjoyed the episode. But other than that, I'll be back again tomorrow. So a big thank you for listening as always. And until next time, don't be a stranger.